it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We are keying into really the importance of taking ownership of your position within a narcissistic or psychopathic relationship dynamic that you have found yourself in or you're researching in. As you're obtaining more knowledge, as you're obtaining more wisdom, and you're obtaining the tools and applying these towards your relationship to create those boundaries, to create that raised awareness, to developing and applying in a unique way to your own situation the tools for managing these difficult people, I want to provide you a recap and for you to see essentially the differentiation of how a narcissist or psychopathic individual may look at the relationship responsibilities and accountabilities, and how a truly free and accountable, responsible individual will therefore also look towards their position in the relationship, and how you can bring these together, and how you can use this as a sense of creating a foundation for moving beyond this victim consciousness, for moving beyond this very difficult to manage relationship in your family, in your spouse, in your lover, your significant other, or a business associate. So when we look at the really sort of nutshell relationship, just bringing this together in a summary of sorts, in a primer of sorts. There's a wonderful book called The Wizard of Oz and Other Narcissists by Eleanor Payson. I would definitely recommend this book to you. It's great, easy to read, very digestible. And in terms of getting a summary and looking at a very sort of nutshell description, you need to have just a go-to understanding within yourself. So rather than making it overly complex for yourself, you need to really simplify. And she does a wonderful job of this on page 31 when she talks about the very, very much the limiting or shortcomings of a narcissistic and psychopathic individual. Now, she does not go into psychopathic personality traits and manipulative tactics. However, really every individual who is presenting with psychopathy is also dealing with narcissism and those qualities as well. So they're limited. They have limited or no ability to self-reflect and take ownership of the problem. So if you're dealing with someone who is not taking ownership of their problem, or where they're injuring you, or how they are mistreating you, if they're not taking ownership, if they're not able to see that, then how are they apt to change? How are they apt to change their approach to you? They are not. They are not able to self-reflect. They don't feel that they have done anything wrong. In fact, the narcissist is oftentimes very righteous. So they feel very high and mighty in being the way that they are, abusing you the way that they do, being above you and the way that they have positioned themselves. It's very arrogant, it's very haughty, it's based on a lot of pride, and that is just how they feel, and they're not giving it up. And very importantly so, I would find that also, especially in relationship systems, you're definitely going to see people who do not want to give up their big sister status, their big brother status, their mother status. You know, they feel very much an indelible pattern within this relationship. So in other words, if they're the big sister, they're not giving up the big sister title. If they are your big brother, they are not going to give up their big brother title. Or if they're the baby and they're used to being coddled, nurtured, lax rules, lax discipline, they're not going to be apt to give that up. So very importantly and interestingly enough, see if you can apply these sort of narcissistic qualities and fuse this with the birth order in your family, or how maybe this merges or fuses with your relationship dynamic with a lover or your spouse, and see what other kind of arrows that they have in their quills, in their sack, that they can just shoot and aim at you just because. And when you're dealing with someone who is because I said so, just because it is always going to be this way, this is how we do it around here, that sort of mentality, it's very much a top-down, smack-down sort of situation. You know, they're not going to be able to change. They're not going to be able to take ownership of the problem. They don't see that they have done anything wrong. They feel very justified. They feel very righteous. They feel very defensive in where they're coming from. So they're not going to listen. They're not going to be able to hear. They're not going to be able to consider your position if they are presenting with that attitude towards you in your relationship, in your marriage, in your business associate, or with your siblings. So that's really one of the very important, I think, nutshells. If you can get to something very, very simple and have a go-to understanding for yourself so that you can get results quickly and understand things, how this person looks at things, and that they're not taking ownership. These very, very small snippets and phrases, I think if you can digest these easily, you can understand how these play out and how they manifest to the bigger picture of what you're experiencing in the relationship. Because when we see very much, the how it plays out, in how they treat you, there's always going to be some origin. There's going to be some very, very specific mindset that they are operating out of. And this expands out from that root, from that origin, from that belief. So if that is their belief, that they cannot, and this is their character disorder, that they cannot self-reflect and take ownership of the problem, if that is their core belief, they're very rigid, they're very inflexible, then you're dealing with someone who essentially is going to not be able to give you that empathy, that understanding, that listening ear, that listening heart, that open mind that is so important to working things out in a relationship. So this is really one of the very important hallmarks, I think, that we see within a narcissist relationship dynamic. If you can see how this manifests and resonates with you in your relationship, I think you'll see how very important that is, and furthermore, how important it is for you to take ownership of your emotional positioning and your emotional life moving forward. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.